Hey guys. How's everybody doing? Hey Gookster. How have you guys been doing? I know it's been a while since I've gotten onto a live. Ugh, that that fatigue is kicking in. It's kicking in real hard. How are you guys doing? Thanks, Mamu. Hi Novi, welcome. Hi Josie. Yo, guys. I don't know how you guys are feeling, but I'm at that point where I'm just, hey Claudie, I'm just like, I don't know how much more I have left to make it through 2020. Like, I feel like I'm fast approaching the end of my petrol tank for this year. Yeah, it's a little like, everything feels like a lot right now. Hey Palisa. So, today we are back with our the same WhatsApp group, right? Like everything feels like a lot. I find that I'm now like at that point where I'm just like, I just want to finish off everything that I need to get done this year and just like shut down everything. Initially, I thought I was going to work through to maybe early or mid December, but yeah, I think mid-November I'm cool. I'm done. I just can't anymore, because I also don't want to get into that space where it now feels like cumbersome to do work that I generally enjoy, so it's a difficult one. Josie says apparently 2020 is a trial year. If this is the trial, honey, then I don't know what 2021 has in store, because this is a terrible trial. Wow. Hey, Ms. Munzi. Okay, so we're back with our HR series today, and we are talking about performance management and promotions and all of that stuff as part of our 4-part HR series. So we've already covered 2 parts of it. If you've missed any of those conversations that we've had, they are available on my IGTV, so you can access them there, or you can check them out on my YouTube channel. If you just search Sihle Bolani, you'll be able to find them on YouTube. And today we are on part 3. So I'm just going to get Oli on so that we can kick off the conversation. Please send through your comments, your questions. We like to have our conversations to be as interactive and inclusive as possible. So please do not to be shy to participate. Hey, Ms. HR.
Hey, I'm so tired. Oh my gosh, I'm listening to you. I'm like, you have no idea. You have no idea how I was rushing from work for this. I was like, yo, I can't be late. so, so it was just, yo, guys, it's been a day, it's been a year, it's just been, yeah,
A lot.
everything. Oh, yeah, all in one. It's just been all in one. Eh? Yo, I'm
You know
tired.
when you wake up in the morning and it's like, yo, I have to do that today. Like when I
Yes.
woke up this morning, I was like, oh, I have an IG live tonight. Can I cancel it?
We could have canceled. I was like, 4 hours. I was tired. I'm just tired. I think I'm drained from the exams, the never-ending exams, never-ending online glitches with varsities. I'm just over everything at this point. And then there's a job which I just started. So there's just a lot of things happening at the same time, and there's kids. So I'm like, Aisha, I'm done. I'm just done.
I feel you. I feel you. But here we are. Okay, so we wanted to have this conversation around performance management and promotions and all of those things and increases, because for many people, this is around the time of the year where you start having the conversations around your performance reviews.
Yeah.
Which gets very interesting when you've had a pandemic year. Because I'm sure a lot of people are going to have some challenges as far as performance reviews concerned, and being able to produce a portfolio of evidence in the context of a work environment that was kind of thrown into chaos for the majority of this year. So I guess the departure point, Oli, is, so we've spoken about the recruitment process, right? That's the first conversation that we had. And then we spoke about employment equity and why it's important and what we need to know about it, and what we need to, the questions we should be asking in our organizations to understand how employment equity impacts on us inside the organization and as people who are prospective employees for other organizations. And now you're inside the organization, you are doing the job, you have been given your job description, but there's got to be a way, obviously, to measure your performance, which is when you then start looking at your performance contracts, and because that feeds into then your performance reviews at the end of the year.
Definitely.
So why, firstly, is performance management necessary within the workplace?
Okay. I wanted to take it back to benchmarking, but let's start right here. We'll go back a bit. Performance management is important because it identifies the key performance of a person, the key role. It's like you have your key roles, obviously, to do on a day-to-day, your daily tasks, and then there are people who exceed their performances, especially when you're working in sales environments, your banking industries, and somebody will ask, but I'm not in those industries. Yes, but performance is measured also by the service you give within the company. So the service we are talking about, you could be working for a bank. Are you giving the best service? You could be working for a construction company. Are you servicing the people within the company well? So we also need to see where we are and also evaluate. It ties nicely into our last conversation with EE, because this is where we also get to compile all the information and see part of our employees who need development as well, or part of our team, part of the people in our team who are a bit behind, who need coaching, who need to be looked after. So the performance management is important because it kind of takes out, it also pinpoints the person who's not performing. And by not performing, I mean, there are people who go to work to drink coffee. Let's not hide it. There are people who, who are always sick. So if these kind of patterns or trends are not managed, Sihle, you as a company are bound to struggle. You as a manager, you are bound to struggle. You are bound to have a non-competitive team because nothing drives them. Nothing gives them the, I need to get this done to secure the bag, 2020 language, or to be seen as, or to be viable for a promotion. If we were not measuring performance, how are we going to promote people to the next, for their next roles? So we need to obviously manage performance. And it doesn't matter where you work. Guys, performance is measured with everybody. By the way, even a receptionist, how the receptionist answers the calls, that is also measured. That is also looked into, right? So that is the importance of it. I think it is to drive people to always do better. It actually, I feel like it's one of the things that give good relations within a company, if done right. Please highlight, if done correctly. because somewhere the implementation part of it always gets lost in translation somewhere.
Now you raise an interesting thing with if done right, because I wanted to chat about the things that can go wrong with the performance management process. I think one of the things that I've always kind of questioned about performance management is we go through this process of putting together our performance contracts, and we'll speak about performance contracts in a bit. So you work on that with your boss, right? And then that's it. That's what you need to do. And then come performance review time, and your stakeholders have got to say, did not meet, met some, but not all, met, expectations exceeded. But you've never had a conversation with your boss that says, what does it look like? What does met look like? Because you can still do what is required of you within your role, but your stakeholders might feel, no, you still didn't meet my expectations. So there's still, as much as we have those indicators that we can kind of use to see where people's performance sits, there's still a lot of room for personal opinions, for bias, for racism, for sexism, for assholery. There's so many things that can happen within that process. So as an employee, what are the things that you should be doing to ensure that when it is time for you to start managing your performance, start reviewing your performance, but also being able to keep your stakeholders honest about your performance? What are the types of things that you need to be considering or doing or implementing from the time you sign that contract for that position and you begin your role?
I always say start your performance from your day one, from when you start. Your own review. Do your own review. The reason I say that is not every company has works on a performance review basis type of situation, but set goals. You've set goals with your manager. You've set down. I always say bother your managers, guys. The reason I was saying if done right is because it's always, without fail, a manager's responsibility to manage this process, to make sure I cannot be a manager who sits there and wait for you to do a mistake, and then I'm going to bring it during the review and be like, this didn't exceed my expectation. That is the problem. That is where the whole thing where I'm saying if done right comes from. If your performance is done right at the beginning, you sign your performance contract, your management contract, we go through the goals, what is expected of you. Look, every quarter have a tea catch-up session with your manager, with your team leader. And I've seen this happen. And then when those happens, you also develop, you are right, there's a personal boundary that stands in between that. Because if we don't have the right managers, we're not going to win at the end of the day. If the org structure is not right, we are not going to win. If we have 100% Indians only, we are not winning. There's just a lot of things to look into, right? As an employee, once you have that performance contract, and I'll take it back to our first conversation about recruitment, where there's a part where you are on probation. You start evaluating yourself from day one until the last. But you can only do that if you have catch-up sessions with your manager on what is falling behind. That's when you will know. Let's be honest. If I'm in a meeting or in a catch-up session and I realize that half the time I haven't done my CCMA reports, come review time, that's going to be the thing that sticks out like a thorn, right? Because I never got to get it right during the year. It's the thing I struggle about. And why am I struggling? Maybe I'm actually juggling a lot of things. It's not because I'm dropping the ball, but it could be the fact that I'm the only one in the department who needs to service 100 people. That is also the reason. And for a fair and an honest performance review, we need to be honest about the shortfalls of your manager as well. And I think that is the part that employees don't know. As much as they give you feedback, you are allowed to give them feedback about them as well. Now, this is tricky because it can become a conversation that builds the two of you, or it become a conversation that now he or she is going to treat you differently from there, because you've pinpointed the things that you feel. I could say to my manager, I feel like the reason I dropped the ball when it comes to payroll could be I didn't go for payroll training. So I'm doing half the things from my head. I'm using basic mathematics to calculate so that we meet deadline. Hence, we constantly have errors coming back to us every single month because I wasn't trained on this. Yes, I was promoted to become, but part of the promotion didn't come with anything else that made sure that I'm able to perform in this position the way I'm required to. That is when you give feedback to your managers to why you dropped the ball on certain things. Hence, I'm saying these catch-up sessions are important because you also bring about what you are lacking from your side, what you are struggling with from your side. You bring about the highlights of, you know what, Sihle, as my manager, I get it. I'm servicing a whole 10 restaurants and I'm the only HRBP there. When there's disciplinaries, I can't attend all of them because I might be in Limpopo the next I might be in Pretoria, right? So they need to also find out. And that's why it's also important for a company to have a performance review so that they also they evaluate themselves and see their shortcomings. The whole point of it is to build this good working relationship of transparency. We need to just be transparent with each other. That's why it's important for it to be you and me and you type of conversation. That's why, and exceeding, you mentioned something about exceeding expectations. I always say, I remember my first performance review, my manager said to me, 1 to 5, these are the things, the tasks, I want you to rate yourself and give me the reason why you would rate yourself, right? And I will rate you afterwards. I found that a very fair process because afterward we had a discussion about why you would rate me out of 5 a 2 and I would rate myself a 4. And then it ends up becoming maybe a 3 because there's reasons as to why we got here. There's also reasons why people are not performing, and at the end of the day, there's a price, they're not getting the increases. So it's also part of the reasons. It's also part and parcel of this performance review thing. It's big. Hence I was saying we needed to start with benchmarking, because from benchmarking you see why it is important as well that we keep this going, because you feel like it's something that falls into the cracks. But like I said, guys, if it's done right, and if it's done right, it's not an HR job, by the way. It's not just an HR job. All managers, all executives, all supervisors, all the people on the ground are involved. I find that the companies that get it right are the transparent companies. Transparency, I'm talking about even salary disparities, where they were able to publish the gradings. A C grade from lower to upper earns around the salary. Those companies somehow get their performance right, because people who know that, but if I'm promoted to a C upper, I could earn this much, they have a healthy competition within themselves. Yeah.
So healthy competition is a great concept in the workplace. But I think we've all experienced the toxic competition that actually exists within the workplace, and this culture of go, do more. And so when you see ratings like exceeds expectations, it can be a bit concerning for employees if you want to be in an environment that, yes, enables you to perform at your highest level, but not one that where the norm is for you to go above and beyond at any cost to you, mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever the case may be. So many professionals, and particularly Black professionals and young Black professionals, are struggling under the pressure that comes with being within particularly the corporate world. There's so much pressure to outperform everyone, to outshine, to stand out, to, you know, kill yourself for this job that will replace you in a second. So how do we have these conversations with our line managers around, yes, there is doing what is expected of me, but then having a healthy boundary in terms of what is going, you know, that little bit further, taking it a bit further without compromising yourself, your health, your quality of life for your job.
I think when we are talking about companies that are doing it right, like I said, the honest conversations are very, very important. The transparency is very, very important. But there are people who actually do break their back. Healthy competition for me is when somebody in the team has gotten a promotion and everybody is happy because they know that she deserved it. She worked the most. This is the person who had a lot of duties. It also comes back to how people are not promoted or promoted during this time, and anyway, I'll get back to that. But it's also important that if we were to work on a paper and just be like, this is our duty, this is my duty only, and I'm going to perform this only, we are not going to go forward. We're gonna end. Your position becomes redundant like that. It stays where it is. It doesn't evolve. When you want to have conversations with managers around what is exceeding, in most cases you'll find that the most simplest of things, being able to assist each other in a team, especially with people who work in teams, are always evaluated about their relationship. If there's 6 of them, how do they get along with each other? How does this and that work? And for me, like I was saying, when a person in the team, it's not about you being secluded. It's about you opening up to everybody else. That's the other thing. 2 would also be that we sometimes we break our backs not with what is expected of us. And I've noted this quite a few times, because sometimes we want to go forward so much, we want to be a C upper, a D upper, so that it doesn't matter who we actually hurt in the process or who we actually stumble in the process, as long as I've gotten my promotion or as long as I've gotten that salary adjustment. And I feel like that is a personality trait that you also as a person need to look into. The whole performance structure in an organization is meant to, when I was talking about healthy competition, is to build, it's to make you want to do better. But in doing better, guys, let's not stab each other in the backs and now be like, oh, I deserve this more than who and who deserves this. There's also a thin line as well with people being exposed to knowing information about things, because somebody's going to come in and say, but Ole is earning so and so and so, but I'm doing more. Which forms part of the problems that why companies will not want to disclose salaries, which will be our next topic. Those kind of things, because the minute you take everything onto yourself, you make yourself sick. I was saying, in any environment, it doesn't matter how busy it is, you have to take care of yourself. The minute you don't take care of yourself and you are focused on it's a competition, it no longer even becomes that. It no longer becomes joyful. At the end of the day, it's a place where you spend 9 hours of your day, every day. We spend a lot of time at work to make ourselves miserable. I've seen people make themselves miserable. I've seen people chant for other people, or be able to say in a team, we have a new HRVP who's not exposed to this, let's help her. Those are the kind of quality employees you look for in an organization. I'm not saying the ones who are going to catfight you are not worth. They are so worth. Everybody's worth the fight. We must listen to everyone. But you want to have an organization where people are mindful about each and every little step that they take. Me, if I wanted to get into a D up and I knew that, okay, well, now I want to move from being a generalist to an HRBP, what is required? You look at your job spec and your job profile, what it requires, and what their job profile looks like. That's why I was saying transparency. There's normally in your shared drive, you will see there's the job descriptions everywhere. When a position is advertised, there's job descriptions everywhere. So it's not like something that needs to be hidden. Then you know that, but out of the 12 duties, I actually have 7. So maybe because what I used to do myself was to approach people from finance. How did I become good at payroll? People from finance. How do we link the GL to this? I used to just want to find out stuff. And then it ended up being a role that I actually excel in. as much as I hated payroll, but it becomes a role that I was like, oh, I could do this with my eyes closed at the end of the day. So you also take on something more, but don't make it heavy on yourself. Don't break your back trying to be the number one spot. It's not a competition of that sort. We're not racing cars. We are building careers. And building a healthy career needs people to really be mindful about themselves, about the work they do, about where they see themselves. I always say people who jot down things and write their career goals and everything else are always easy to come back and say, but to their managers, I didn't reach this part. And this is what we talked about in my interview, that, I don't have labor relations background as an HR person, and I would like to be exposed to a little bit more of labor relations. And seeing that this is a unionized environment, I'd like to be part of those meetings as well. Those are the kind of content. It's as simple as that. But the only problem becomes the personality problem that stops all these good things from happening. Your manager could just be an ass. Let's just be honest. Who'll be like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to take people to training. We get those people. We've seen those kind of people. And I feel like those are the people who stop the progress of changing each and every environment into a good environment. They're people who just love toxicity, and we can't even lie about it. And because they're already high up there, and I always say, it's nicer when you do a performance review and it's not done by your manager, but a manager from a different department. Because some people find it easy to talk about their managers to a different person and not to them directly.
Yes.
And then once that is done, like when it's done right, the organization is going to sit down and look at, but we have more complaints about women. We actually have more complaints than we have. How are people going to know if you tell them on their face, Ola, I don't like you because they won't take it well. Right? And the approach to everything else. The approach, I always say, the approach, even when you're in a hearing, how you approach the person who did wrong can actually give you a better outcome than you being I'm the manager. Yeah, you were not supposed to do that. No.
So when you apply for a job, you apply on the basis of obviously job title, what level it's on, or obviously what you're aspiring to in your career. But that job description that you see is where you get everything you need to know about what the job entails.
An idea.
Right? You get into the organization, you've got to do a performance contract. What is the difference between the two?
Performance contract only evaluates goals, basically, because goals are set. Did we reach the goal or did we not reach the goal? And some of them you'll find a yes or a no mark on a performance on a performance contract. And you said the difference between a performance contract and a
job description.
And a job description. Job description is what is going to your day-to-day is kind of like gonna look like. Performance goes deeper as well into your attitude on things, goes into your telephone etiquette. Those are not the things that are listed on your job description. So we are also looking at your personal approach to things within the work. Are you an approachable person or are you a resting bitch face person? Right? Which happens a lot. Are you the person to harbor work, or are you good at delegating work? Those are things you won't find on a job description. So those are the things you are also measured on, because if you're the person who harbors work, then you don't meet deadlines, then you are crying all the time about you being under pressure because you have a team that you're not using, or you're not delegating the work that you're supposed to be doing. So you are the one who knows it all in the company, in your position. Right, you could be a supervisor at a call center, but because you are always there to pinpoint people who are making mistakes, you're not building the team. So everybody becomes afraid of you. So we look into that things when it comes to performance, and performance is not only about I was able to write contracts to employ 10 people. No, it's about how you apply yourself into the job as well, because how do we say a person exceeded expectation in filing? You understand what I mean? So those are the things that we take a lot about your personal attributes, aligning with the goals, aligning with the work that needs to be done. So that's where the difference comes in. A job description is a paper that will show you, okay, what HR filing, it will tell you clerk, payroll. We don't look into that when we do a performance review. We look into how you applied yourself to the job, your attitude towards the job. Were you mindful? Were you able to delegate? Are you a good leader? Can we now promote you to become a leader? Some people are not promoted to become leaders or to become supervisors simply because of their attitude stands in their way. We can take you from being a cleaner to a receptionist because now when I step on the water, the first thing you do is scream at me like I don't have parents. So those are the kind of things. Also, what are people in the organization saying about an Ole Esile at that time too, about work? By the way, it's about the role, not necessarily about what they're saying behind closed doors, because everybody has something to say. But the role, is she performing the role well? Is she performing the role according? This is where surveys, departmental service will come in. Were you serviced well? Were you not serviced well? In some calls, I think SARS also has that. Where would you rate your call from 1 to 5? They look into that, especially at the call center level. They look into how was this person? They listen to calls as to, was this person great? Why are you getting a rating of 1 in everything? And it affects you. It affects you. I find that it becomes unfair sometimes because half the time, the whole month, you have us canceling our contracts and you have to report on that. And then it's sad for you because now it's part of your performance review and your manager's like, but you're not reaching target. And it's broad. I think that the other thing is the initiative is great, but how companies do it is very, very different per company as well. But I feel like it needed to be done in just one way, and the simpler way, guys, not the complicated stuff, the simple stuff.
Yeah. One of the things that also always kind of comes through low key when it comes to performance reviews, performance management, just in terms of people being proactive also about managing and driving their own performance, also has a lot to do with the fact that there's a lot of fear that comes with being able to say, this is part of my contract, this is part of what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm struggling with this. And having that fear that is going to work against you if you actually say, I actually need more support with this. So I'm actually struggling with delivering on this particular target, and I need assistance. So how do we have those conversations with our line managers in a way that we feel safer, to be able to be honest about our careers and how, we manage them as a partnership with our line managers, and not kind of try and avoid all performance conversations until you can't avoid it anymore because HR is like, hey, deadline.
Yeah, like 3rd of November, honey, 3rd of November. I always say when the first conversation, your first interaction fails, always CC HR or CC the training manager, CC the person on top. There's always somebody you can bypass and always CC so that there's another party who knows what is going on. And I think that is very, very important. Part of the things that we say, it's important to keep a paper trail of things. It's important to document that on the 30th of November, I sat with Luyanda and this was the outcome. But Luyanda was meant to get back to me and Luyanda didn't get back to me. The reality of why people are afraid of approaching their line managers or anything like that, it's always attitude above everything else. It's about who they are, how they present themselves. Are they the kind of people who are not approachable, right? Excuse me. Sometimes I always say, involve your team even when it's not necessary. You have 5 people who you have catch-up sessions with. Get to know them, get to know their lives, get to know she has 2 kids. So when sometimes when they call, I'm like, my child is sick, you're like, you're not like him. Because there are those people who don't know those kind of things. We cannot have the performance conversation at the end. Actually, that's what I was saying. It needs to start from the beginning. We can't always have it at the end and rush through the 5 questions or the whole 20 questions of what you've been given, because then me as a manager did not do my part in developing you as well. in becoming the leader you need me to become.
Yeah.
So if I'm the leader you need me to become, there would not be fear. There wouldn't be. But because I'm now Kibusaka Chaka, I'm that guy, I'm that girl who's like, not here, not today. That's why people. So those are the things that are very important in when I say, when you take your manager and the logistics manager is the one who's going to do a performance review. I'm able to be honest with the logistics manager to say, but my manager is unapproachable. How do I tell my manager that I need to go on training? Right? And why is that important, Zika? Is that by the time you get some things happen, you are able to say, but I wrote you an email about this and nothing happened. How does it form part of my performance review when you could not even give me feedback on the thing that we spoke about? All I needed was training on business writing skills. That's why my grammar is not the best at this point, because all I needed was that. And that is the honest truth, where you hit them to say, I wrote an email, we have proof, we even CC'd or we CC'd the person on top. At the end of the day, guys, in a 9 to 5, we are always on guard. Because people change, people change overnight, and then
and
honestly,
they
turn things around.
Being deciding that I'm going to be an active participant in my career is what saved my butt when my boss was trying to get rid of me, because I knew exactly what my achievements were, because I documented everything. I knew what I did well. I knew what I reached out for help for. I did not get help. I knew where the gaps were because I was under-resourced. I was able to track, all of every single thing. I kept a record of, because I understood that I have a responsibility for my career too, and people will change. People will show you flames
overnight, or you will get a new manager.
Yeah.
You will get a new manager when there was a plan, when there was already this coming, and things change. I mean, let's take a practical example with COVID. Things changed for a lot of people in companies, and other people got new managers. Other people have no managers right now. I know I have quite a few of my friends who are like, friend, right now I'm not reporting to anyone, but everybody comes to me to ask for something. So I have no mentor, no nothing. So like we are saying, that people change really, really overnight, over the smallest of things, over asking a simple question that says, but when we had our first meeting, we spoke about this, but this never took off. Why did this never take off? Because it's the thing that I mentioned to you that I actually would like to exceed, to see if I could actually do this, right? I mean, a simple thing, when I say, if you have an HR administrator and then the receptionist goes on lunch, she can go and answer phone calls. She learns that phone etiquette. What are we talking about? Screening calls. It's not a big deal. I'm just giving an example of it adds to what she can do going forward, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to stop something that as little as that, how do you expect your team to actually look beyond where they are at the moment and just want to excel in other roles?
Yeah.
You're not even driving.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just looking. So we've got like less than 20 minutes left.
What?
Yeah.
So I can't believe that.
2020 has been a year that's had a lot of shit, right? For so many of us in different ways. From changing work environments to increased financial pressure for so many different reasons. To some people who are dealing with increased work pressure because they've either been retrenchments at the workplace, or their employers have lost contracts, which has then impacted on them in some way. So there's so many different things that have impacted on people's ability to perform optimally for an extended period of time. So performance reviews for 2020 going into 2021 are going to be very different from any other year. But one of the challenges that we've seen and heard from people within the workplace is that a lot of employers are treating 2020 as if it's any normal year, with the same expectations, without engaging with employees in a way that shows that they're cognizant of the environment that we're currently operating in and the pressures that it's putting on people mentally, emotionally, financially, having to try and be effective at work and productive, and also homeschool your kids, and also clean the house because for a period of time you don't have a helper, if you even have a helper. There's so many things that have come into play. And so the
Mm,
conversation around performance for this period should be different.
definitely.
But there is a risk that it will not be different. How can people walk into those conversations and ensure that, the conversation that they have around the performance, that the reviews that are brought in are dealt with in a way that is reflective of the time that we're in?
You know, I also say, COVID also brought out the people who aren't working in organizations. We have a lot of those. Lest we forget that we actually have, you will find, I think for me, what this time did was also show managers in organizations that there's a loophole of, we have a high head count, and then 30% of them are not actually delivering. Talking about the people who are delivering during this time, why would the performance review be different to suit this time? It's because there's a lot of companies were flexible with their employees. It depends, obviously, the kind of work you're doing. If you're in a call center environment, obviously, we're still going to monitor calls. We still want to know what we are talking about. Did you make the right call? Did you offer people this to save their accounts? You understand? So the review kind of stays the same, because you could do that even from the comfort of your own home at any time. We're going to look, it made also people in organizations to scrutinize the things they have not been looking at, which I feel like it's a good plus. Now we have supervisors who are like, actually, Ola is not doing the job she's supposed to be doing. I hired her for this, but I think she's now doing a whole function for something else. Also, there has been people who've been under pressure a lot of times. And I think during this time, the performance review needs to look at how hard it enslaved people. Organizations enslaved people. I know people who you were chilling and having a sip of something, and they get a call at 11 and they're like, I need to log on.
Yeah.
Yay. Why are we logging on? You understand? And this is where also we need to become honest about our leaders as well, like going back to that conversation as to how they harassed us during this time. When you're working in an organization where they really follow processes when it comes to labor relations matters, me as an employee can easily lodge a grievance and say, but my manager calls me at 11. I clock in my 8 hours every day. Because you must remember, now that it's COVID, we are not doing overtime. Why does overtime? Because we are not leaving the office, right? Because now you work at your own time. And I feel like it pushed people to work even harder so that they are proving themselves that they are working. Why? Why did we do that? Why did managers and organizations force people to... I personally feel like people fell ill from the amount of work they had, because they had to cover a lot of gaps. Right? With regards to retrenchments, if we were retrenching and I'm the only HR person there and my manager, wouldn't I have died by now? I would have probably been like, I don't want to do this anymore. And also, this is the time where the performance reviews must include your managers, precisely because we also need to see how they had managed you. Without being to see you. You don't need to see me to see that I'm doing the work. You're monitoring my work during IT. You can call IT. IT will give you all the times that I've logged in or I've logged out. I've happened to be lucky and have managers who are like, as long as you deliver. During this time, all we need is delivery. And that is very important, because if I have 10 tasks in a day, I must just close them. Once you close, if you close them in 3 hours, you close them in 3 hours, and they wouldn't give a rat's ass. Because that also happens as well. Now, what must I do? I must keep on logging on 8 hours knowing that I've done the work. The trust and honest relationship came out during this time. The performances, people are going to be reviewed mostly on technical ability, mostly of were you able to meet your deadline, mostly of how quick were you able to respond to an email. I'm not talking about an email that came in at 2 a.m. I'm talking about where was the department still functional during this time? And I think that's all that matters, because we can't actually be like, you are not working for an hour. How do you know? You know,
Yeah.
so the review itself will look into the technicalities than it normally does, because it normally looks into personal attributes that align with your career, that align with your job, the analysis and everything. Now we're going to look into what's the delivery, what's the functions, were your functions being done on time, were you able, all these technical stuff are going to be looked at. That's what is going to make it different this time around, which I think must be taken forward, must be added into next year. Not everything, but I'm saying when things are back to normal, because this is our new normal, they must also look into technical things, because I feel like where you lack, I mean, let's just, simple example, companies were exposed to knowing that they don't have files, or they keep things in files rather than have things scanned into the system. Imagine if you have a company of 150 employees and their files are at the office, and then we have somebody who's going to a disciplinary. Now I have to go to the office to go look for a file. The littlest of things that needed to change, because we still have companies that don't want to change even the most simplest of things, as I've given an example right now, that they needed to also see that, be able to identify their loophole within their industry as well. So
is it not also an opportunity for us to consider bringing in employee wellness as a performance, as one aspect of performance for particularly line managers, people who are responsible for other people? Because before the pandemic, we were already seeing a lot of people speaking about how there's a lack of empathy in the workplace in terms of wellness and mental and emotional well-being. We are seeing spikes in people being, checked into psych or mental health facilities because of work-related stress. The pandemic came along and it just exacerbated all of that in so many different ways, because on top of dealing with work stress, you're dealing with personal stress, you're dealing with family members who are ill, family members who are dying, your own fear of getting sick, your fear of your kids getting sick. There's so many things that come into play which all impact on how you show up in the workplace and how you're able to deliver on your job. And I think for me, one of the things that I feel has been very clear to me through this process has been that we have to start holding line managers more accountable for how they impact or support the mental well-being of their employees, because that's a part of them, of supporting them to be able to fulfill their function, which is your job as a line manager.
I've seen some companies do the most and go out there in making sure that others said they have ICAS. There was that. And then others where they went an extra mile in using the time to also train or retrain managers, because I know of 2-3 companies that retrained managers on emotional intelligence, retrained managers on things that they needed at that time to facilitate this whole process during the COVID time, to make themselves more open, retrain employee managers on communication skills, on when, now that everybody is out there, when do we joke, when do we not joke, because somebody might be just going through the most, and there are people who got it right. When I really don't want to lie, there are those who really got it right in terms of, we also partnered, there are companies that also partnered with clinical psychologists as well in this regard, to say, please, should you have anything that you feel you don't want to talk about, or you feel pressured in any way or anyhow, we'll foot the bill, but we have partnered with so and so clinics, it's a female only, or it's a male, or whatever, you can find it there, or they come here at least once a week, or you can Zoom call them. I have seen other companies go an extra mile like that, and for me that also worked for the employees, because they were able to receive help, right? in retraining, why I'm saying other companies retrain their line managers is because they saw that loophole of people are struggling. We all don't have cool bosses who are like, we know the kids are young, we know. We all don't have those kind of cool bosses. And some people's jobs are just quite intense. When I say they're not like my job, they're just intense. During COVID, you are working from home, you are running a whole logistics program where now SAB is closed, everything is down. At the same time, you need to deliver. Those trucks need to go and pick up something different, and you're working from, so it becomes a lot of work, because now this is where you went an extra mile, because half the time you did the things that wasn't the things on your profile that you were supposed to do. I find that those who failed, there are companies who failed to do their employee wellness right a lot, and they failed simply because, like we were saying from the beginning, that people were not trained. Like, managers are not trained to, you still have managers who are not trained to lead, to become the best at this time. Those who've been the best, I don't want to lie, they outshone everybody else, because this is how they've been leading. They led with kindness, they led with empathy, they led with, understanding, and saying, if you could hear a director say, my kids are young, I'm battling, I can't expect you to not battle as well, because once I'm battling, I flow everything through to you. You are going to battle as well, right? This is where we needed to exercise. Because I know one of my friends one day had a meeting request from her boss out of nowhere. She was like, "What does she want from me?" And then they went into a meeting, into a Teams meeting, and afterwards, like, no, I was actually just checking up. Am I coping? Is there things that I can leave behind? Just that, simply. The difference it came, because she said, look, if you are overwhelmed, just say you are overwhelmed. We will just do the important things. And that was important. It was important during this time to bring out people to be comfortable, because I know of other people who are like, wow, my manager actually showed his softer side during this COVID, because he would check up on us. He would be the one on WhatsApp messaging, sending us verses maybe, or sending us jokes, keeping us alive. On Fridays, be like, I know we don't have alcohol, but water is nice too. Those kind of things, those kind of interactions open a way for every employee to be comfortable and to be able to approach you. If a person can say, our manager was nice during this time, it means in the office he was probably non-approachable.
Yeah.
But
so
also
just before Instagram cuts us off just in 2 minutes. So we've spoken about performance management, performance reviews, performance contracts. Now, for a lot of people, we understand that we go through that process because we want to ultimately be promoted. But the reality for many people is that the chances of being promoted are slim, because the people above you are not going anywhere. And particularly if you look at it within the context of South Africa, where a lot of the people who are at the top are white people who have the narrative that says, if I quit this job, I won't get another job, because all the jobs are being saved for the black people because of affirmative action. And so they don't move from those roles. And you can only be motivated to perform by salary increases and bonuses so much before you actually want more than that, before you actually start being a lot more focused on your trajectory for your career and that upward mobility. So how do people navigate that in a space where they can see that I'm probably going to be stuck here until the only way I can move up from this position that I'm in now is if this person either leaves or they die?
Oh, yes, Nizofa. I always say, guys, when it's time to leave, that one mistake we also do in Essential, we get so comfortable in organizations. By the time you wake up that this and this and this hasn't happened in my career, that's when you are now looking at, so I'm never going to get promoted. We don't take initiative ourselves to actually wear our careers as in our head and on our sleeves and be like, this is what I want to happen. People who do that are people who actually don't stay in companies. These are people who come and go. because they know where they want to go. It's not necessarily about the money. I've seen people leave for the same amount of money, but simply because what are you offering more into my spec? Right? So because we need to also take accountability on our side. That now I cannot be sitting there for 5 years and expect that things are going to change when I'm doing the same thing. It's impossible. Yours is to leave. Yours is just to go and look for something else out there. Because if that person doesn't die, honey, you are stuck. And who said when he dies, they don't have a person already? That's just the other thing. Can we just be accountable for our careers where we want to see it go, the direction of it? And I'm saying this to a Black child. It's so important. You don't know how many people I have to say to, guys, this is not the end of the world. This is not it. You could do more with actually where you are. From being a cleaner to a receptionist to an administrator, that is possible. It is. It is possible when you have the managers who allow you to go on these trainings and develop you and. But at the end of the day, I feel like that part is important because we don't take accountability when we sit there, we become so comfortable with things. But you become so used to taking the bullshit that by the time you're not comfortable anymore, it's too late.
Yeah.
By the time you are looking around now at your friends and you are like, yeah, and like, I've been here for such a long time. You brought that to yourself, no one else. When you are not getting fulfillment in anything, be it a relationship, a friendship, or work, honey, pack your bags. Try something different. The other thing about COVID, it taught us to tap into things that we didn't know we are capable of doing. All of a sudden, I reached out to so many groups of human resource women, and I didn't know there were those platforms before. Right? I spoke and I started communicating to people who could coach me into other things of my career for free, just by use your social medias, guys. Like, use any tool that you have. We cannot be waiting for managers to die or to move.
Yeah.
Because even in that hierarchy, it's so sad. The manager could possibly move and they'll take you the manager who was underneath, somebody who was underneath you to make that person a manager. You're still stuck. That doesn't move you. You're still stuck. You're still that person who reports at 8, leaves at 5, and there's no change in their lives.
Yeah.
So this one is on us. Can we just change that mentality? Because that shit makes me mad. Because all the time.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Absolutely.
All
we
the
definitely
time,
definitely don't do enough to be proactive about our careers.
We don't. We
But,
don't. We don't.
We have reached the end of today's session.
Oh my gosh, we didn't even take
flies.
Comments. They're going to kill us.
Is it Son of Clapper says a much needed timely conversation. Thank you both. And he says know when to leave the party, Betuna. Right? But also take initiative, like your career, the direction that it takes, how you level up, how you grow. You're responsible for that. You're the driver of that. And we have to get to a point where even if you are within employment, you are ensuring that you're holding your line manager accountable for supporting you in the ways that you need them to, for your progress, for your growth, your development, and the delivery of your goals. Thank you so much.
Just a simple one. Look at your finances. If you were not saving before COVID, you saw smokes during COVID. So if you didn't take initiative with your finances before, I hope when you come out, Ashem, you stop buying the moyets.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us for our third session. We will be back with you at the end of November for the last part of our HR series, and we are going to be chatting about
salaries, guys. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be, I need you guys to come in hard because I know you guys are gonna come in so hard for me. I'm gonna prepare for all of you guys. I'm gonna try my best, but hey, let's talk about it. Let's engage.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Oli, as always, with all of the wisdom. And thank you so much, guys, for your time and for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.